Get up, come on!
As horror fans, we've seen numerous monster-driven films in both remarkable and underwhelming categories. Most films are painfully frustrating to watch, with the characters choosing the wrong actions at every single turn. But today, we thought it'd be fun to bring you 12 amazing monster films with antagonists that are either mysterious creatures or, even worse, a human. So let's dig right in. Before we get into our explanation, we do have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The Thing, 1982. Directed by John Carpenter, The Thing is a 1982 science fiction horror film that features a parasitic alien monster that can absorb, assimilate, and imitate other organisms. It's set in the isolated landscapes of Antarctica and follows a group of American researchers in their remote outpost. One ominous day, they're disturbed by a Norwegian helicopter that's chasing a sled dog. The passenger accidentally blows up the plane while the pilot escapes and continues chasing the dog. He screams at the American researchers, who are stunned at the sight but aren't able to understand his language. He accidentally shoots one of the researchers, prompting the guards to shoot him down. The researchers took the dog in while analyzing the Norwegian research site to find out what happened. They find a malformed humanoid corpse, and upon performing an autopsy, they find it has normal human organs inside it. Soon, the dog metamorphosizes into weird creatures and begins assimilating other dogs he's caged with, starting a commotion. The facility is alerted, and the chaos unravels as they realize the true strength of this alien creature and begin to suspect each other. Turns out the Norwegians had excavated a buried alien spacecraft from the depths of the snow. It was estimated that it was buried for 100,000 years before releasing the frozen aliens. To prevent these creatures from reaching human civilization, the group formulates a plan while growing paranoid of who among them might be the imitating alien. In the end, the facility is destroyed while only 2 of the crew remain alive in the burning remains, still wary of one another. The film wasn't at all well received by science fiction fans and was hated by viewers. Critics said it lacked emotional depth in the face of the gore, the plot was confusing, boring, and even implausible and nihilistic. Although the actors received positive criticism, their roles were considered bland. The impact of the negative criticism was so much so that Carpenter lost direction of another horror film, Firestarter, and he was called a pornographer of violence. So you must be wondering why this film is even on the list. Well, the critics knew not to criticize the entire thing and gave credit where it was due. The film's technical aspects were widely praised, which were described as visually repulsive but absolutely brilliant. The designers were lauded for their creativity in various gore scenes. The cinematographers, sound engineers, and editors were also praised for their great work. So again, why is this film on the list? Well, you see, some creators are way ahead of their time, and that was the case with John Carpenter, as the film was just a bit too much for audiences of that time, but 43 years later, it's deemed one of the best horror films of all time, taking its place among the top films of the body horror genre. The remote location, isolation, paranoia, and gore not only show the physical, but also the psychological horror the characters go through. It became more popular after its release on home video, followed up by a novel in 1982, a comic book miniseries, and even video game sequels. Alien, 1979. Alien is a science fiction horror film directed by Ridley Scott. It centers around a commercial space tug named the Nostromo that's returning to Earth with 7 crew members in stasis. The ship's system suddenly detects a signal coming from a nearby planet and awakens the crew, as the company policy requires them to investigate any transmission from an intelligent life form in space. They haphazardly land on the planet, 3 people get out to check the problem, while the other 3 soon learn that it wasn't a distress transmission, but rather a warning coming from an alien spaceship. It's too late though, as the other crew finds a deceased alien creature aboard the spaceship. One of them stumbles upon a chamber full of eggs, and when he curiously examines one, a creature jumps out and latches itself onto his face, penetrating his helmet. They rush towards the ship, and despite senior member Ellen Ripley's instructions on maintaining quarantine, another member, Ash, overrides this and lets them in. The alien soon releases itself and dies, leaving its host perfectly fine, but Soon after, his chest explodes as an alien baby comes out of it and runs off. This alien baby rapidly grows in size, and the crew plans to initiate the freighter's self-destruct system, much to Ash's disapproval. They soon learn that Ash was an android who was given secret instructions to bring this alien to Earth, even at the cost of the crew's life. Ash is killed by the crew, and everyone except Ripley is killed by the alien. Ripley finally manages to escape the shuttle after blasting off the parasite. The film became an instant success at the box office and even got numerous Academy Awards for Best Direction, Visuals, Sci-Fi Film, Supporting Actress, and Dramatic Presentation. In 2008, it even ranked number 7 in the Best Sci-Fi Films list by the American Film Institute, and its success was followed up by 3 sequels, countless novels, comics, toys, and video games. It even had 2 crossover films with the Predator franchise, hence earning its place on this list. King Kong, 1933. Directed by Marion Cooper and Ernest Schoedsack, King Kong is a 1933 American action-adventure monster film shot in black and white. So, a film director named Carl is looking for an actress while wandering the streets and finds a beautiful girl named Anne who gets caught stealing an apple. He hires her, despite her being unqualified, and off they go on a ship to a faraway, uncharted island that Carl has heard is filled with giant creatures. As soon as they arrive, they witness the natives sacrificing a girl to a creature named Kong. Upon seeing Anne with her blonde hair, they offer to give up 7 girls in exchange for her sacrifice. The crew refuses and moves away. Oh, and Anne and the ship's captain Jack fall in love, despite Jack's constantly being repulsed by women. The natives soon kidnap and sacrifice Anne to Kong, who turns out to be a giant gorilla. She's put on top of a mountain while Kong fights the film crew and even other threats like the Tyrannosaurus Rex, Plesiosaurs, Stegosauruses, Apatosauruses, and Pteranodons, thinking that he is saving her. Jack is able to rescue Anne into the village while Carl uses gas bombs to knock Kong out after he's killed many native villagers and crew members. Carl decides to showcase Kong as the 8th wonder of the world in New York Broadway, become rich. So he does just that. As the surprised crowd looks at the subdued Kong, he notices photographers taking Anne and Jack's pictures with the blinding flashbulbs of that time. Believing that they're attacking his precious Anne, Kong breaks free and starts going crazy, killing more people. His ape-like instincts cause him to carry her to the top of the Empire State Building, maybe to watch the sunset in peace, and that's how an iconic scene is born amid the chaos. The military dispatches several biplanes to attack Kong with machine guns. He carefully sets Anne down and climbs further to destroy the planes. He manages to swat one of them away before being brutally wounded and falling to his death. A cop remarks that the airplane got him, but Carl corrects him, saying that it wasn't planes, it was beauty that killed the beast. Ouch. Apart from the brilliant idea that went into this peculiar plot, this film is famous for the groundbreaking stop-motion animation by Willis O'Brien, the musical score by Max Steiner, and the remarkable performance of the female lead, Fay Wray. You should definitely check this classic out, as despite its age, the female lead doesn't swoon over her kidnapper and has genuine reactions at seeing the giant Kong. Frankenstein, 1931. Directed by James Whale, Frankenstein is an adaptation of a 1927 stage play by Peggy Webling titled Frankenstein, An Adventure in the Macabre, which was quite different from the novel. It's set in the Bavarian Alps, where Henry Frankenstein and his assistant Fritz successfully bring a corpse back to life after meticulously arranging the organs from different dead sources. They accidentally end up using a criminal's brain instead of a normal one, and we all know how that's gonna end. The monster, despite appearing grotesque, seems really innocent and childlike, as he's not able to understand the world in front of him. Upon seeing Fritz with a flaming torch, the monster freaks out, which Henry and Fritz mistake as an attack and lock him up. Soon, Fritz goes to scare the monster even more with the torch and gets killed. Now, Henry is prompted to kill the monster. He's subdued with strong drugs, and Henry leaves his friend Dr. Waldman behind to kill the monster, as Henry has to prepare for his wedding. While Waldman tries to disassemble the monster, he wakes up and kills Waldman. The monster then runs off and meets a little girl, who, instead of running away from him, asks him to play with her, throwing flowers in the river. The monster gladly plays with her until his stock of flowers is finished, so he throws the little girl into the water instead, drowning her. The monster then arrives at Henry's wedding and scares his fiancée to the point of unconsciousness before fleeing. The little girl's death disturbs the entire village, and they gather a mob that sets out to hunt the monster, led by Henry. However, he's attacked by the monster and thrown off the windmill, but survives. In the end, the mob traps the monster in the windmill and sets it on fire. Although the story is pretty basic, it still stands as one of the most most creative of its time, setting its place in the list of worth-watching horror classics. It was selected for preservation by the U.S. National Film Registry. The New York Times even placed the film on their 2004 list, the best 1,000 movies ever. Jaws, 1975. Directed by Steven Spielberg, Jaws is an action-adventure film from 1975. It's based on the book with the same name by Peter Bebchi. It features a great white shark, later named Bruce, that haunts New England's Amity Island. After the first victim, a cop named Martin decides to cease all activities at the beach, but the mayor, along with other authorities, convince Martin otherwise. The island heavily depends upon tourism, and the upcoming Independence Day celebration will bring them a lot of profit. Martin still keeps a close eye on the island when he visits it with his family, joining the celebratory weekend. The crowded beach is filled with families, and Martin's son also plays in the water. Soon after, a kid is brutally shredded into pieces by the shark, as people can only watch in horror. After the chaos subsides, the beach is finally closed, and a $3,000 reward is issued to catch the shark. Eventually, a shark is killed, and people breathe a sigh of relief and reopen the beach. But the killed shark turns out to be a different one, and Bruce attacks the beachgoers again. This time, Martin is adamant about catching the predator and convinces the mayor to hire the shark hunter fisherman, Quint. Martin, Quint, and Matt, the shark expert, embark into the sea on a boat. The arrogant and overconfident Quint is killed before Martin is finally able to blast off the shark, ending the nightmare. The film became a hit and garnered a cult following, leading up to the creation of its sequels, Jaws 2, Jaws 3D, and Jaws Revenge. All the films featured different sharks, from the youngest being the 8-year-old Danny to the oldest being the 80-year-old Brucetta. The Fly, 1986. A journalist named Veronica meets an eccentric scientist named Seth and learns about his secret research funded by a private company. Seth has built a set of telepods that teleport objects from one pod to another, and he's hoping to soon develop them to operate on humans. Veronica wants to write about it, but Seth says that he's not supposed to tell her about it. He had been working alone for so long that he wasn't able to help but excitedly share his work with someone. He offers to share his progress with Veronica so he can closely observe and write a book about it, and she accepts the deal. As the research progresses, the two fall in love and become a passionate couple. After killing a baboon during an experiment, Seth is finally able to change his programming and teleport another baboon successfully. That same night, Veronica finds that her ex-boyfriend, Stathis, who's also her editor, has decided to publish Seth's research without her consent and goes to confront him, leaving Seth alone to celebrate his victory. Seth misunderstands and believes that Veronica is cheating on him with Stathis and drinks himself to the point of stupidity, where he decides to experience the telepod. Unbeknownst to him, a fly accompanies him into the pod, and Seth successfully teleports to another pod, thrilled at his creation. Although normal at first, Seth starts changing with increased strength, impatient demeanor, and high sexual potency. He even cheats on Veronica with a partygoer when Veronica refuses to go inside the telepod at his request, and they break up. Seth soon realizes that he's changed, and upon reading his teleportation report, he finds out about the fly. He learns that the machine merged the fly's molecular genetics with Seth's. He will soon become a hybrid creature. His health starts deteriorating as he becomes more like a fly, and his teeth even fall, leaving him to eat like a fly by vomiting digestive enzymes to dissolve his food. When Veronica comes back, she's devastated to see Seth's deteriorating state and hugs him. She soon finds out that she's pregnant, but she doesn't know if it's from before or after Seth entered the telepods, so she's desperate to get an abortion. Seth finds out about this and kidnaps her, begging her to keep the baby. Stathis comes to rescue Veronica, but gets brutally injured by Seth's acidic vomit. Seth wants to get into the pods together, as he has now programmed them for fusion. He puts the pregnant Veronica in one and enters the other so they can fuse together into the ultimate family when teleported to the third. Stathis uses the last bit of his strength to shoot Veronica's pod so she's saved, but Seth now comes out as a human-fly hybrid creature fused with metal chunks. Seth crawls out and begs Veronica to end his suffering. With a lot of hesitation, a devastated Veronica has to kill the brilliant man she once adored. The film is directed by David Cronenberg as an allegory for AIDS. Other than the fact that it won the 1987 Oscar for Best Makeup, the plot and the acting speak for themselves as to why this film is on the list. Godzilla, 1954. Originally released as Gojira, the Godzilla movie from 1954 is a Japanese film directed by Ishiro Honda with special effects by Eiji Tsuburaya. In post-war Japan, an American hydrogen bomb test disrupts a giant prehistoric reptile, which as a result has become contaminated with radiation. The islanders believe that the creature is Godzilla, a sea monster from folklore that would feed on humanity. Hence, the creature is named Godzilla, who brings chaos to Tokyo, destroying fish and livestock, destroying the city, trampling houses, and killing people. Japanese self-defense forces are sent to handle the issue. The creature is prone to all deadly weapons and even fires radioactive heat from his mouth. Finally, a brilliant scientist named Daisuke Serizawa is approached to use his newly created chemical weapon named the Oxygen Destroyer. Daisuke deems this weapon highly dangerous to humanity if it's in the wrong hands, as it has the capacity to suffocate an organism exposed to it before disintegrating. Although he initially declines, after seeing Japanese schoolchildren praying for peace, he's prompted to use it. Daisuke eventually sacrifices his life to kill Godzilla and save his nation. The film ends with the warning that another Godzilla will appear if mankind continues nuclear testing. This was the first film in the infamous Godzilla franchise that has a total of 38 films. Ironically, it wasn't well received in Japan. The critics even called it grotesque junk that looked like something you'd spit up, but they eventually changed their views after positive reviews came flooding in from its release in the US. Hence, Godzilla would garner its reputation as one of the finest Daikaiju, or monster films, of all time. The Host, 2006. Directed by Bong Joon-ho, this is a 2006 South Korean monster film that's a political satire about American imperialism. In late 2000, an American military pathologist orders his assistant to dump a large amount of formaldehyde into the Han River, which leads to the creation of a monstrous creature. 6 years later, this creature emerges from the river and starts attacking people. It soon captures a young girl named Hyung-seo, who's now believed to be dead. But when the family gets a call from her, they desperately try to rescue their little girl. The film closely follows the emotional quest of Hyun-seo's father, grandpa, aunt, and uncle. They battle not only with the monster, but also their personal differences and the corrupt authorities that fake a viral contamination to quarantine the locals and have experiments on those who come in contact with her. The creature stores Hyun-seo in his lair as a food supply, not realizing that she's alive. She demonstrates exceptional intelligence and courage as she does all she can to fool the creature, and even saves a little kid the creature later arrives with. In the tragic end, the grandpa sacrifices himself to save the family, and Hyun-seo dies while saving the little kid. The enraged family then works together to set the monster ablaze and stab it to death. The kid is then adopted by the family as he was an orphan. This film set a record by selling 10 million tickets in only 21 days. After its international release, it became a worldwide sensation with its emotionally gripping storyline, ranking 81 on the list of the 100 best films of world cinema by Empire magazine. Cloverfield, 2008. Presented as a found footage film, Cloverfield is a horror monster film directed by Matt Reeves. It follows the struggles of a group of friends as they try to survive a deadly monster outbreak. New York, Jason and his girlfriend Lily throw a party for Jason's brother Rob, who's going away to Japan. Rob's bestie Hudson starts filming the goodbye messages and learns about the complicated relationship between Rob and Beth. Both like each other but don't confess it, and Beth is soon prompted to leave the party. In a matter of moments, lights go out, the building shakes, a huge explosion is heard, and the city breaks out in chaos. Everyone flees to the streets where the Statue of Liberty's head crashes down near them. A giant monster is moving through the city, causing destruction and death. Moreover, it's released smaller creatures that crawl away for additional havoc. As the group tries to leave the city, Jason gets separated and dies. Rob gets a call from Beth, who begs for him to help her as she's stuck in her collapsed building. He decides to go, and the group adamantly follows him. They take shelter in underground tunnels and are attacked by little creatures. Their other friend, Marlena, gets bitten while helping Hudson before they rescue her. They're soon taken to a military rescue base where Marlena becomes sicker and suddenly her body explodes. The military lets the group go find Beth, warning them to hurry as the city will be bombed after the last rescue choppers leave. The group manages to rescue Beth from the debris she was pinned under and make it to the military choppers. Lily gets sent separately while the other three are taken together. Hudson cheers as the creature is showered with bombs, but as if hearing his voice, the creature hits the chopper to the ground and kills Hudson. Beth and Rob hide under a bridge where they finally confess their love before more bombing strikes the bridge and it collapses on top of them. The film became an instant success and went on to create an entire universe of its franchise known as the Cloververse, where creatures from other dimensions attack Earth as a result of a space experiment. The Invisible Man, 2020. Directed by Lee Winnell, this is one of the most gripping sci-fi psychological horror films. Cecilia is trapped in an abusive relationship with a brilliant scientist named Adrian. One night, she finds the courage to run away, literally. She sneaks some sleeping pills in Adrian's drink and runs off with the help of his sister, taking shelter in the house of her childhood friend and his teenage daughter. Soon, her sister brings the news that Adrian has ended his life, leaving all of his assets to her. After the initial liberation, Cecilia starts feeling like she's being watched, and a series of eerie coincidences follow. She concludes that Adrian has found a way to become invisible and hoaxed his own death. Everyone starts thinking that she's lost it, and then the Invisible Man shows up. He creates misunderstandings and makes everyone abandon Cecilia, isolate. He even kills her sister and hands the knife to her. Cecilia finally manages to prove the Invisible Man's existence in front of her childhood friend before killing him. But when she removes the mask, it turns out to be Adrian's brother, and Adrian is revealed to have been kidnapped all along. Cecilia, however, doesn't believe this and insists that Adrian is lying. Obviously, no one believes her, so under the guise of having a chat with Adrian, he uses his own Invisible Man suit, kills him, making it look self-inflicted. Her friend realizes what she's done, but stays silent as the film ends. The film got positive critical reviews after its release and has been listed among the best horror films of all time. Your most toxic ex lurking in the corner of your room, watching, is a creepy feeling that everyone can relate to. Tremors, 1990. Directed by Ron Underwood, this one is a monster horror comedy. A small desert town in Nevada is disturbed by a giant worm-like creature that has multiple snakes for tongues. It lives underground and follows the ground vibrations to brutally mutilate people. Val and Earl, two handymen, discover this and call authorities for help, only to find out that the phone lines have been cut and roads are blocked. So they're left to use their intelligence, limited resources, and the town gang to kill the creature and its two friends. After the success of this film, it became a franchise with 5 sequels, 1 prequel, and even a TV series. The Descent, 2005. A year after losing her husband and daughter to a car accident, Sarah reunites with her best friends Juno and Beth as they decide to explore some caves with their new group of friends. These 6 women enter a cave that they believe Juno had already been to, but as Juno promised them real adventure, she didn't mention that it was undiscovered and they had no map to navigate off. Soon, they get stuck with an entrance collapsing and have to go in deeper to find an exit. To add to their misery, they start getting attacked by sinister creatures referred to as crawlers. The characters die one after another in the most intense manner. In a tragic moment, Sarah learns about Juno's affair with her late husband. When only the 2 of them are left in the end, she stabs Juno's leg with a pickaxe before fleeing to safety. But freedom turns out to be a dream as Sarah wakes up still stuck in the cave. Directed by Neil Marshall, this British horror film will surely trigger the sense of claustrophobia in you, cramped setting, nerve-jangling plot. Marvelous verdict! That was our list of the 12 most spectacular monster movies of all time. Although the films we've chosen stand at the absolute top of this genre, we'd love to add more movies to this list, so let us know what we missed out in the comments section down below. We want to hear about those creatures that deserve the mention and the praise. This is Wizard Wheezy signing off for now, but thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.